Welcome to Off Script. I am one of your co-hosts, William Bingham and May the 4th.
And I am Ashley, your other co-host. And we are here to talk about the full disclosure of wanting a real estate team. And today's topic, we're going to talk about building an ISA or a lead gen department. So probably tailored a little bit more to teams or people are looking to expand and grow and
create new lead
funnels. So
we talk about that a lot, but to give a quick update, this year we are at 67 pending and closed. We've hit 26 million pending and closed for the year, so we are humming right now.
Yes.
So things are happening just how we want them to. We're pacing right where we want to be to get to the 225 number. We intend to continue keeping everybody in the loop on how we're doing on that goal.
We just brought on Chapin Sellen. She's officially started and been onboarded, so she's got her first 2 listings coming up. I'm happy for her.
Yep.
And we have 1 open position right now still for social media that we're recruiting for a part-timer.
Yep.
And 1 shared services agent on our team.
Yep, we're still hiring 1 more shared services here over the next month or so. Mm-hmm. So if that is something you're looking at joining a team or it would be helpful for you to have some extra resources, reach out to us.
All right. Should we get into it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to let you kind of lead most of this. So Will on our team has the one really been building out this. He had a big door knocking background. And so he's been taking the lead on building the lead funnels for our team. So I'm going to do more interview based today and just ask him some questions on this. So tell me, why did we even start an ISA department to begin with? Why now?
A lot of it came from us, right? Like figuring out what our goals were moving forward and having a big goal or a long-term goal of 500 units. You have to have a really, really massive database. Our biggest lead generation source is database for our team. And so as we perfected that, something I've always coached to is having 3 lead funnels over time for any agent or team. And we know that we have our database turning, at the turnover rate that we want it to. We're continuing to perfect that year over year. Our second lead funnel was THI, new construction, obviously our relationship with them. And still, obviously, right, trying to perfect that process and continue getting better there. And a third lead funnel that we really thought was something that would work was because of what I used to do, door knocking, like you said, is a listing process. And what that looks like is having a really strategic process of how we're geographically lead generating around each listing. So for us, we call 500 houses in the area saying this house is coming soon. We call the same 500 houses back and invite them to the open house. And then once we sell the house, we call those same 500 houses and we tell them, hey, we just sold this. Do you know of anybody else looking to make a move in the area? Mm-hmm. And the reason we do that is we want the people in the area to see us take a listing all the way to sold and create some sort of system or process, which takes time, to get 1 to 2 deals out of every single listing that we have.
Great. And when did we know it was a good time for our team specifically to hire? And how did you decide between going in-house versus virtual ISAs?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and how that's evolved.
Yeah, so
Actually, we should take a step back. We didn't even say what an ISA is. Inside sales agent. So what is their main role on our team?
Yep, so an inside sales agent when we use a lot of acronyms, probably because of the brokerage route, right, at Keller Williams. And so ISA is inside sales agent. Which is common, but it's somebody that is in your lead generation department and that lead generates and does follow-up and sets appointments only, is not an acting agent in the market, I guess, is the best way to say that.
Okay.
So their focus is to set appointments for our agents or for us, for our core team.
Mm-hmm. And how did you decide between in-house versus virtual? And talk a little bit about how that's changed over the last 6 months since we've started this.
Yeah, well, I was the ISA for a while. I was the one calling around our listings and doing these things. And as we started to grow, I needed leverage of some kind because my time was much better spent helping our agents develop their database and their pipelines at a grander scale. And so we went back and forth on, do we bring somebody in-house, which we actually talked with an agent to see if he would want to be our ISA a year ago. Wasn't the right time. I'm so glad it happened how it did. And then I found a company called Power ISA. And when I looked at the numbers, it was almost half the cost to have one ISA. And it would just involve me coaching and, training that person on top of the skill sets that they already help with. The Power ISA company coaches them weekly, helps them understand real estate. So I think a lot of it came down to numbers and leverage. And then fast forward now, that agent that we wanted to be our ISA is now our lead manager, right? And he oversees our ISA.
Anthony.
So Anthony Gothrop we brought on as our lead manager, which everything happens for a reason in the timeline that it should. But he now oversees Shannon, our ISA, with the hope that we'll have 2, 3, 4 more once we are able to scale this and get our processes down.
And how did you find talk about our story of interviewing, like how we identified our first ISA and what traits that we looked for? This might be fun to tell how the beginning of this happened with our first 2 hires.
We went through the interview process, and Ashley, of course, she is more risk taker more than I am. So we went through the entire process. We interviewed 4 to 5 ISAs, and
through Power ISA, so they provide the people for you to interview.
Yep, through Power ISA, so shout out to them because they've been phenomenal to work with. And so we interviewed 4 or 5. I narrowed it down to 2. I watched the actual interviews with you, and there were 2 that stuck out. One was like, had no idea how to, what real estate was, but I knew she had good character and she could learn. She's a little flustered when I put her on the spot. Do you remember what happened when I put her on the spot in the interviews?
Yeah, so Will asked her to do a live script, and he said, just any script that you've done. Most of these people have done some type of inbound or outbound or sales type of position. So he said, just off the top of your head, give me any type of sales scripts you've done. And she hit us with a
Pizza Hut order. We were laughing at that, but it was so funny. I knew she got flustered because I put her on the spot, but I also knew she had good character. She wanted to learn. She was looking for an environment that she had a little bit of flexibility, but she could just grow and somebody would train her. And I knew that we were the right person to do that. She
had personality, and she also had this like emotional awareness of like how to talk to people.
Yes.
And so I thought what was interesting is we had 2 complete opposite candidates that were in our top 2.
Yeah.
And then talk about who our other one was. Francisco,
he was a closer. So he was, actually his previous jobs were when you get calls for vacation packages and you're saying no, they put him on the line to close you. So I knew he was like, I'm ready to go right now. And my worry with him was that he wasn't going to get wins in real estate quick enough. And we said, hey, like, what are your technology skill sets like? Like, how are you with technology? And he said that his success comes from his personality and his phone.
Yep.
So those are the only 2 things that he needed. And so we went back and forth, and you, being the risk taker you are, you said hire them both.
Yeah.
And so we did, and within 2 to 3 weeks, Shannon was really starting to produce and do a good job, and he said, this is like we thought, not happening quick enough for me, and was done. So he was.
We really didn't know what direction to go because they were so polar opposite, and one of us liked one and the other liked the other, and we just didn't know which one to go with, and we didn't want to make the wrong decision and lose one, and we thought, well, we're not hiring both of them for a year. If they both end up working out, fantastic, and if they don't, we're going to get our answer out of this. So we took a little bit of a risk, hired both of them, and saw what happened quickly. And it is long-term nurture, especially when you're doing any type of cold lead generation and circle dialing. We knew it was going to take a long time to convert some of these, and Francisco just didn't have the patience. But Shannon's still with us today, and she's killing it.
Yeah, and she is killing it. So it was me managing her for 6 months. The first 3 months she probably loved. The last 3 months were a little bit crazy. So I felt like she was a little bit on an island until Anthony came on. But if you're ever going to hire ISAs virtually or whatever that may be, I think the biggest misconception is that it's a set it and forget it. We were able to find success pretty early. We did 6 deals in 6 months. And we were going into it thinking we were going to do 0 deals in 6 months. So to have those quick wins early on, we knew that this was going to work as long as we continue to stay focused. And so me meeting with her weekly and talking to her daily about what are we doing today, who should we be calling, that whole first 3 months was very eye-opening, and all of our processes broke immediately. With what we were doing with her.
What was your focus on the first? I feel like she's evolved so much from when she started. So what were you focusing on with her at first as far as training and onboarding? What was your focus with her, and then what's been the evolution of that?
Yeah, the first, to start, all I wanted to teach her was her scripting, to ask the right questions, and what I consider lead identification. All I wanted her to do is find people that said maybe, hesitations, or yeses. And if she did that, immediately pass them off to an agent, let them call we scripted our agents to say, hey, you were talking with one of my agents in training, and this is the conversation, and they would take the handoff from there. And as that time has went, I've just consistently helped her understand what follow-up was, what the sales cycle is, so that as we move forward, she can follow up with them and set appointments. So the whole goal for us as a team is retention and to be able to set appointments for our team instead of giving them leads. So a lot of teams will give leads out, or Zillow leads or Realtor.com leads or whatever those may be. Our focus long-term is just to set appointments for our agents and kind of perfect that process of getting there.
And that kind of touch a little bit more on like how you mentioned Realtor, Zillow leads. Why did we take the, I guess you could say, harder route? Most people look at this as a much harder route because it's a long-term plan versus your quick wins, the Zillows and the Realtor.coms. And we know those work and we know they're a quick win and you know you're going to obviously convert at a much higher level. Why did we go this route versus that?
Yeah, well, our two lead sources for our ISAs are circle dialing and Facebook leads. So the reason that we went with Facebook leads is they are a longer nurture, but they're much cheaper. We have our leads coming in at about $7 to $9 per lead through our Lofty system. So that was our buyer source. And then we want to just heavily focus on listings. Because if we get listings and we perfect this process, the buyers will come to us. And so that's why we kind of went this route, knowing it's going to be a much longer term nurture with a much higher payout and more control of what we're doing with it.
Yeah, and that, I mean, if in comparison, you just mentioned, what are we paying, $7 to $9 cost per lead, would you say?
Yeah.
As compared to Realtor and Zillow, you're going to pay up to 40% of your total commission on those deals. So
or very high.
Yeah, it's very, very expensive.
A very high expense every single month on those. And so, and everybody's going at FSBOs and what used to be expired, right? Those will come back at some point. But everybody's going at FSBOs and Realtor.com, Homes.com, Zillow. We just wanted to catch them before they got there. So if we're calling them, circle dialing, following all the rules to be compliant, and doing those things, we can catch them way before they get on to their apps and on their phones is the hope. And that's, I feel like for us has been our strategy from the very beginning, is how do we build long-term funnels that we can control versus having to pay somebody else to get leads for.
Tell me a little bit about, and maybe you don't know, I'm putting you on the spot here, these numbers off the top of your head. What's your goal for the lead gen department this year? So we have one ISA and now we have a lead manager, Anthony. So we essentially have 2 full-time paid positions for this. To set realistic expectations with people listening, what can we expect from having 2 full-time people? Once they're fully up and running, what's kind of your goals for them?
We have a goal, Anthony and I have a goal this year of doing 30 deals through that lead gen department. So the focus is going to be doing 30 with the 2 of them. Once we get our ISAs to 2 to 3, like 2 deals a month, for 3 months in a row, we are going to hire another one every time. Because I know then we've started to perfect a process, and then Anthony can start to train and develop another person, giving him a ton of trust in this because I know he's the right person for this. Last week they did 205 conversations. So between the 2 of them, and we're tracking now 14 leads and I think 6 or 7 appointments set. So as we've brought Anthony on, what's an appointment? What's a lead? Like we're at the process or point now in week 3 of trying to figure out what's the true meaning of a lead versus an appointment. So of those 7 appointments, 3 or 4 are probably phone calls, and I think 3 or 4 were in person. So we're really starting to get that process down so that we know how much money is going in, what we're getting back, and what to expect from our ISAs and when we hire one.
Okay, I'm going to pivot a little bit to managing and compensating our ISAs. And we don't have to give specific numbers, but there's different structures to doing this. So talk a little bit about how we've structured pay. Are we salary, commission, a hybrid model? A little bit about what some of those key performance metrics look like that you're tracking and how you are keeping them motivated. I know it's a lot in one, but kind of all of that.
First ISA was paid through the company, and it's a salary essentially. It's an hourly rate, but they bill us on a monthly, so we look at it as a salary, and then we bonus on deals closed. So a lot of people do appointments or whatever that may be for bonuses, a smaller appointment bonus. We we bonus on deals under contract and sold. So for a buyer, we give half when it goes under contract and half when it closes, because that's our job to keep it under contract. And with a seller, it's slightly higher bonus, but same thing, when it goes under, when the listing agreement's signed, half the bonus; when we close, the other half of the bonus is there.
Okay.
And then we brought Anthony on as a lead manager, again, salary with a bonus on his deals. And then for him, his growth path is really, as we hire more ISAs, to oversee them and make small, bonuses on each one of their deals as well, while he's still continuing to lead generate.
Okay. What about some data that you're tracking? Do you guys have any type of, when you coach with Anthony or Shannon weekly, what kind of things are you tracking with them and monitoring to see how successful we are at what we're doing?
Yep, we are tracking dials, conversations, appointments, and leads, or leads and appointments. So a lead being like, hey, yeah, I was thinking about moving, but no appointment was set. An appointment being a phone call appointment or in-person appointment.
Okay.
If we're tracking those things with the intent to understand how many dials does it take to get an appointment. Okay.
Now, I want to transition a little bit into maybe some of the lessons we've learned. We've now been doing this for, how many months has it been? Since
8
months now?
9.
What's our biggest mistake that we've made when hiring? I feel like we talked a little bit about the beginning. I don't know that was a mistake. We took a risk. But what would you say that we're doing differently? Because Power ISA actually had you on their podcast to talk about the success you've had locally in Omaha. What have you found that you're doing a little bit differently after talking to Gustavo with Power ISA that maybe others aren't? And how are you finding that success?
I think the biggest thing is we're just taking a strategic approach to this and knowing it's a long-term, long game for us. When I started having to pull lists, we used Vulcan. When I started pulling lists in there, 3 months had passed and I had no organization anymore. Everything broke. We had to start from scratch. That was like the biggest headache that we've had. So we used Google My Maps to map out the entire city of Omaha with quadrants, and all the way down so like one neighborhood is broken into 4 quadrants. And we did that through the entire city. It was a really, really big project. But now we have so much organization inside of Vulcan, because whenever you go to a neighborhood, we can tell if we've already pulled that neighborhood, all the notes from it, and we know how it's named in our system. So we just have a much more strategic approach to how we're doing this, a long-term approach that is scalable with 5, 10, 15 ISAs if we wanted to, and then just having grace with our people, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like you really let Shannon fail in the beginning. She had no real estate background, and you just told her, I remember hearing you on the phone, just go out and fail and mess up as many times and give me feedback and we'll get a little bit better every day. I think another thing Gustavo shared was a lot of people look at Power ISAs that they hire as a set it and forget it. Like, I hired an ISA, so you should start bringing me leads. Yep. But you took a very, very hands-on approach, I would say, in the beginning. I mean, you were on the phone with Shannon daily.
Yeah, you guys were making fun of me.
It's a whole t-shirt named after it.
Yeah, there's a whole t-shirt. But yeah, I mean, the same thing that we do with our agents. Like, fail as much as humanly possible. The main way we're running our team is have as much grace with somebody. As long as the effort's there, it can always get better. You can set an appointment and screw it up. In that, we find out what we did wrong and we can continue to get better. And there's no difference with our ISAs. It's just having most people go into it saying, I need to get deals within 90 days. Like, we didn't have that expectation. We knew 6 to 12 months is going to take to get her up to speed. She excelled much quicker than we had thought, but just having that same mentality that we run with our team, which is let's go fail together, let's figure out how to get better, and then continue moving forward. I feel like the real conversation here for teams and for agents is understand your lead funnels. Most people are just very transactional, so they're living life. I call it lifestyle lead generation. They just go out and be them, right? They go out and be Ashley in the world, and then deals come in. When you're running a team or you're running a business, have a process. Like, when you're doing a deal, how did that happen? What were the steps that it took for that person to get here? And then write that out and follow it over and over again. And that's what we're continually doing with our 3 lead funnels that we're building. Okay.
My last question, if people are listening to this, what should they expect in their first 90 days? So it's funny you just mentioned that. And how can they get a hold of you, or what can they do if they want to learn more about what we've done with our ISA department? What would be their next steps to learn more about this?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big advocate of Power ISA because they've been great with us. In the first 90 days, I would just expect, find the right person. You might not have the right person immediately, but find your ISA, build a relationship with them, understand what they want and what they're looking to do and how you can help them. And then be on it every single day talking with them. Expect 0 deals. know that you're building a process and you're building long-term success. And if there are any questions about, just reach out to me. Like whether it's a coaching appointment or whether it's just advising on what you should do for the year, what you should do with your team. I'm always open to those conversations. It's what I do every single day. And so just reaching out to us and figuring out what the right plan would be.
All right.
That's all we got.
That's all we got.
Okay, we'll see you guys next week.
All right. We're out.